Before we start the podcast today, I want to start off with a message about the current situation regarding police brutality and race that happened in the U.S. and has sparked protests all over the world. And you might be saying to yourself, here we go with Radio Free Skaro getting political, but human rights and decency are not political. In fact, they've been at the core of Doctor Who since the beginning. You might also say that this is a time to hear black voices more, and you are right. But the thing is, black people have been speaking up for years, for decades, for centuries. They've been heard in the Reconstruction era. They've been heard in the Jim Crow era. They were heard in Salem, and in Birmingham, and in Watts, and at Stonewall, and in Los Angeles, and in Ferguson, and last week in Minneapolis. They have been speaking out about the white supremacy and structural racism in our society. They were heard, but we didn't listen. As white people, this is on us. Black people have had to speak up for their rights for too long for white people not to listen. This is on us. We here at Radio Free Skaro are three white guys born into privilege because we have known nothing else, and let's be honest, a lot of you listening right now are just like us. We've never had to think twice about going to the store late at night without worrying about being stopped by the police. We haven't had to look around every time we hear a cop siren wondering if they were coming for us. We haven't been called racial slurs. We haven't had to live in fear. We have been lucky. I wish I could sit here and tell you that there is an easy fix, that just by not being racist, you're doing enough to help the situation, that by being okay with there being a black companion in the TARDIS, you're contributing a positive message. Amplifying black voices and black creators is great, and please continue to do that. But the one thing you can do that can inform all your choices and actions in this, the one concept that is so vital to grasp, is that of empathy. The doctor once told a small, scared child, a young Danny Pink, that fear is a superpower. Well, empathy is a superpower too. Taking time to think about how situations in your day-to-day life that may be easy for you, but are not so easy for many others, is the first step towards understanding each other. And that is something we can build on.
Radio Free Skaro.
Everyone, welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 746. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
It's a time right now, everyone. We are here to help you distract, help get through things. If you need it, we are here to provide that service, we hope.
With a Steve Thompson miniscope.
Steve Thompson miniscope today.
I can feel people's arms just gripped into their chairs.
Yeah.
I don't know
Maybe
if that's
in
like the most perfect thing or the worst thing.
I don't know. Well, we're doing it, though. We're talking about his three stories, The Curse of the Black Spot, Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, and Time Heist. And then asking the age-old question, should said person in the miniscope come back and work on the show?
Take a wild
again?
guess.
Stay tuned for
you.
that at the end of this. What else in Doctor Who world that we have to talk about today during this news list? I will say this just before we press record. Gallifrey 1 posted that the hotel block, it's tough to think about Gallifrey 1 and anything past today, but it's out June 26th at noon Pacific time, Friday, June 26th. The hotel block will open up for Gallifrey 1 2021. That's like 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm in the headspace to think about that because, as of recording, the Canadian-American border is still closed.
Yep.
There's a lot of, even Gallifrey 1 themselves posted that if you're from outside of like the LA area, maybe don't make concrete plans yet, because things might change by the time February rolls around. So,
and the California Governor Newsom has, say what you will politically or not, but I mean, some of his directives have contravened higher level stuff. So I mean, you never know whatever gets,
and for good reason,
whatever gets decided for maybe the U.S. as a whole, or not decided, it might be the wrong word, but anyway, California may or may not take a different stance.
That's just to pimp my own province. Bonnie Henry was profiled in the New York Times.
That's right,
because we've done and I hate to say this and then get bit in the butt, but we've done a pretty good job here of keeping this thing in check.
Yeah, one new case on Friday, which is the most recent, as we record this on Saturday morning, and only 7 in Alberta, new cases in Alberta. So, I mean, our part of the world is the best for
so
COVID.
Far.
Yes.
So far.
I saw...
I could say it unequivocally, Warren. only good news from here on in.
Somebody I know who moved to New Zealand just after New Year's, or just before New Year's. I saw him on Facebook link an article saying that New Zealand hadn't had a new case in 13 days, and then he posted it, I think it was the day after, where they had hit the 14-day mark of no new cases down there.
Crazy. Well
done,
New
Zealand. That's a full, what do they call it, transmission cycle or something?
I believe
like that?
so, yeah. Yeah.
So that means potentially it's been eradicated down there? Depending on,
all it takes is one flight in.
Well, that's just it. I was going to say it depends on because I don't know where I know they had pretty strict restrictions in place early on. I don't know where those are at these days though.
I don't know. All I know is that playing the board game Pandemic, I mean, you cure a disease and it takes a lot more to eradicate it. Let me tell you, it's tough. They don't even include that in the actual, like you don't have to eradicate the disease to win the game. That's how unlikely it is to eradicate. So,
well, I mean, things like, was it polio is still declared as eradicated, but people will still get it because it's eradicated means 99.999% or something.
Tuberculosis,
pretty much. Tuberculosis people still get. An alarming rate,
I know,
actually.
but it was for a while. And bubonic plague is still around, honestly. It just, where most of us, the reason we don't get it is that a lot, if not most of us, are immune because everybody else who got it died, clearing the way for us.
Or vaccines, but whether it's herd immunity or vaccines,
Yeah, the thing about herd immunity is that you have to become immune first. It doesn't work the other way around.
You have to get it first.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2/3 of Europe has to die 600 years ago for us to be coasting on that one.
At least the population of Europe was a lot smaller then.
Well, it got even smaller, actually, with that. But,
yes, it did.
Back to segueing from the bubonic plague to Gallifrey 1. The thing about hotels is, of course, that you don't pay until you stay.
For the most part, yeah. I've got a few friends who have had to pay in advance because they're coming from halfway around the world.
Are they?
I don't know if that's a thing with the credit card they're trying to use or what, but for the most part, thankfully, you can make the booking without having to pony up front.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to, I mean, flights are one thing, but if you want to try to plan ahead for a hotel room at the very least, you can do that. So June 26th, noon Pacific time, Gallifrey 1 hotel block opens up. On to other news. We're recording this Saturday, as I said. So the big live tweet that would have happened but didn't happen, but the other one that has more or less replaced it, the Doctor Who Blackout, which is partially organized by our friend Joy Piedmont, which included the Ghost Monument, the Haunting of Villa Diodato, and then Thin Ice, and what was the other one? Fourth one.
Well, I don't remember offhand.
So 4 episodes happened this way. I literally just 11 o'clock is
knock,
struck.
Knock, knock.
Knock, knock.
As I look it up.
Happened the Doctor Who Blackout thing, of course, started as a response to what the original, the Emily Cook sponsored one, which is going to be World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls, which we correctly predicted that it would drop after we recorded our last episode, and then we incorrectly guessed which one it was. Turns out we probably guessed a better one because, for a lot of black people, watching Bill be killed in that fashion and then
in the first 5 minutes.
In the first 5 minutes of the episode, and then told that her anger is dangerous because it makes her cyber gun shoot, is not certainly for this time, with what's going on in the world right now, is good, but also any time really for a whole chunk of fandom, really. So Emily Cook finally sort of said, yeah, we're calling it off. I don't know if that's going to be the last one, if they're going to do another one after this. But the special content that was going to be created for it is still going to go ahead, and probably has by the time this episode comes out, with Matt Lucas and Pearl Mackie. And then the scripts also for these stories have been posted, along with a whole bunch of scripts for the BBC Writers' Room site. So links in the show notes to get those. So yeah, I hope that you all enjoyed the Doctor Who Blackout live tweet along of those 4 episodes, because we aren't watching because we're recording this at the very moment that it's going on. So
yeah, well, I mean, you had expressed concern, Stephen, that for the series 11 and 12 ones, 12 anyway for Villa Diodati, its availability is a little limited because it's the Blu-rays and such aren't out in North America until later this month.
Yeah. Next week, I actually finally got a notification that it's arriving June 11th. Anytime I get an Amazon notification, thinking, delivery update. Here we go. For instance, I got the one for Faceless Ones, which we proudly proclaimed, it's coming out July 28th. Yeah, a week later, Amazon says, actually, it's going to be October 7th. So that's delayed. But the Series 12 set is coming out June 9th. I'm getting it June 11th. Amazon told me, and they never lie. They only mean well, does Amazon.
If you pre-order, you should get it on the day, darn it.
You'd think that. But these times are very different right now, and so I don't take anything for granted.
I put in my pre-order for Paper Mario for the Switch, which comes out July 17th, I think. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Well, that's good news.
And then sometime in July, isn't season 14 coming out for us?
Yeah. let's hope that
Amazon's been reliable for books and not reliable for anything else. But then, to be fair, nobody else has. Also, I got expedited masks for some reason with the wrong postal code. Please, somebody solve this mystery for me. 50 disposable masks showed up at my place with my name, my address, expedited parcel. Nobody knows who or why or how, and it has one number off my postal code. So I'm like, I'm not putting these on. They could be poison for all I know.
Wow.
I'm like, is this a scam where I get something that's good?
And this is from Amazon, is it, Warren?
I don't know who it's from. I looked through my Amazon and Jenny's Amazon, and it's not on either of them, so it's a complete mystery.
What a weird
The mystery
tangent.
of the benevolent masks. It's the worst Hardy Boy story ever.
Yeah, it wasn't the best one, actually. There are some other ones that are worse, but... so, anyway... what do we cover off? Tweet-alongs, Amazon, deliveries, availability, Secret of Novice Haim, because the Russell T. Davies did the New Earth Gridlock tweet-along, which was the last one, I believe. Some more new content came out of that. And The Guardian has sort of summed up a whole bunch of stuff that's been going on and how active Doctor Who has been during this this time of lockdown with these live tweet-alongs and fandom and recording for Big Finish in your bathroom and everything else. So,
yeah, like Louise Jameson's thing about setting up her recording thing just outside her bathroom.
Look, if we can survive the wilderness years, we can survive anything.
Yeah, it's we podcasters have been doing this for years anyway. So it's finally the world has caught up with, being locked in your own home and dealing with it, or perhaps even liking it, or at least just getting used to it. Our sad existence as podcasters. That's everyone now.
Here you all are, cool people.
Yep.
You've come down to our level.
Welcome
Way to
to
meet
the
us
club.
halfway, by which I mean not halfway at all. Mm-hmm. And all it took was a ravaging disease.
Yay, rabbit! I love those. Those are great.
Yeah, hooray.
Yeah. I am curious. I mean, I know we mentioned that things are starting to open up now around the world, and this part of the world certainly. But I'm curious to see where things are in like September when Doctor Who is slated to get back to production. Like where will things be at this point? I mean, will we still be socially distancing and all that? I mean,
apparently next week California gets back to work with filming, and I'm like, is it though?
Really?
Is it? That seems. I mean, it is basically the industry of Los Angeles, so I can see why in quotes, but there's a big but there, so we'll see. We shall see.
Man, that's I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see how, because
the first set that comes down with a mass infection, that'll get dialed right back, I bet.
Yeah, like what kind of stories can you tell? I mean, people have to be like, they're not going to wear face masks during the making of these shows. Will the actors be tested? Well, I assume the entire crew will be like wearing face masks and stuff. But man, interesting times. We are in interesting times, everyone. If you hadn't discovered.
Has anything been said about Vancouver productions that you've heard of, Warren?
I haven't been paying attention. I haven't seen anything get in my way. Let's put it that way.
I was going to say, like, have you walked through any live sets at this point, Warren?
No, I have not. I think it's coming back fairly soon, but I haven't heard one way or the other. I know one friend of mine who works in the film business is pretty happy that he's unemployed right now and getting paid by the government, so go with that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I just based on how like the virus spreads. I mean, outdoors is much safer than indoors. Like how many more scenes are going to be written instead of taking place in a small apartment? How about it takes place outside? How about they just take place outside? Right. Well,
let me tell you, for a period of the 1990s to the 2010s, all alien worlds were green forests, aka Langley. So,
that's true.
So that we're probably going to get back to that.
Yeah,
most of Battlestar Galactica was in deciduous forest.
Like just like another barren planet.
There's a lot of BSG there.
Yeah, another barren planet. How about that? Why does it seem like we're on green screen on the same? So well, it just seems that way. That's just the way the planet
Why does
is.
Caprica have a Scotiabank?
It's very
one of the biggest mysteries.
Yeah.
See, in shows like Continuum, they would embrace the Scotiabank because
they were one of the very few who said we are in Vancouver. Orphan Black eventually just admitted they were in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They didn't hide their locations.
Yeah. What else we got here? Doctor Who, the YouTube page has actually also sort of churned out content during the course of this, and including some audio readings. They had with Annika Wills previously. They had now Conundrum, which is from the Doctor Who Audio Annual, as read by Matthew Waterhouse himself. Adric reads a story. It's on the YouTube page, on the Doctor Who YouTube page. So that's another thing that's been coming out. As I've said before, Doctor Who is like more active during the time that they're not on camera. Like for the since I can't remember, like last year there's nothing while they're making the show, and now there's nothing and they're not making the show, and there's everything that's online. It's quite something. Let's talk about some Big Finish stuff. How about we've told you about the Time Lord Victorious series of events across many different platforms that's going to be coming out over the next few months. Well, they've announced some Big Finish stuff. Time Lord Victorious, 4 more places are slotting in to the jigsaw of BBC Studios' hugely ambitious Doctor Who multi-platform adventure, with 3 different stories: the Paul McGann of the Time Lord Victorious, and then one of the Masters Who, if you will, which is a short trip box set with starring John Culshaw as all of the Masters. So those are coming out from October through December. Exciting stuff as the gaps fill in with our knowledge about what's going on with Time Lord Victorious.
That's the one good thing I think about Time Lord Victorious is, despite the fact that it's spread over so many media types, everything is coming out in a compressed amount of time. So you can actually maybe keep track of it with some relative ease.
I can't. I'm old and tired. I can't keep track of anything anymore.
Well, that's
insert Shadows of the Empire reference here.
Well, that's why we have a news list here, Warren. So
and blind, and confused. Who are you? What's going on?
I don't know.
I like the 21-second pause on trying to remember Warren's name there.
Yes, I know. Well, I was looking at the next one with Dad. What was that? Oh, it's the teaser. It's a teaser to something else in the news list. It's not Davison though, but it could be. Peter Davison is also Going It Alone. Doctor Who Time Apart. A new story where Doctor Who's Peter Davison as the Doctor is on his own, no companions at last. During this
finally rid of them
Big Finish adventure 4-part anthology due out July 2020. So just next month. That's next month because we're in June now.
You know what? They still haven't done Big Finish. And Jason Hagel, if you're listening, Tom Baker with a cabbage on his shoulder. I mean,
has to happen.
You can do it now without any difficulty. Let's have that happen.
Yeah, like I assume the cabbage would talk. And John Coleshaw.
Here's the big mystery. Yeah, what would the voice of a cabbage be? Would it be a lot of because he's got a lot of folds of cabbage to get through?
I think it would be funny if it sounded like Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart as the cabbage on Tom Baker's shoulder.
I just want it to look like a spitting image puppet, like just all really grotesque.
Well, it's audio, so you can imagine it.
Exactly, so it can look like whatever you want it to.
We've had like Ian McKellen on Doctor Who. We've had Derek Jacobi on Doctor Who. Patrick Stewart, that would be a heck of a crossover.
That would be.
Isn't Mark Wing Davies' second head in Hitchhiker's Guide essentially a cabbage on the shoulder? It looks that bad.
It pretty much is, yeah. I mean, for 1981, special effects is pretty good, but yeah, it is. A good job for remembering the actor's name, Warren. I am impressed by that.
I know. That won't happen again. But actually, I just watched some Hitchhikers recently. The thing is, you watch this stuff, it doesn't matter how bad the effects are. You just kind of brush it over after a while.
Oh, you appreciate them and what they could do at the time. That's what I do.
Exactly.
But, yeah. There are no visual effects in these Big Finish plays because they are audio dramas, and they are coming out soon. And the last bit of news before we head off to the miniscope.
Second last bit of news.
What did I forget? Oh,
TARDIS touchdown technique.
Oh my God. Okay, so we mentioned.
You were excited about that one.
I was. I know. I missed it. I jumped over it. The TARDIS Chronicles is a book we talked about when it came out, or just in the lead out to come out, from Wonderful Books, which is superb by the looks of it. It's only available like in paperback. I'm hoping for an ebook copy, but or at least for delivery schedules to calm down a bit. But the images that I've seen of it, the information therein is amazing, and some of the stuff that Paul Smith wanted to portray in the book couldn't be contained to pages, so he made like a 15-minute video of different techniques that the BBC used to make the TARDIS appear and reappear over the course of the entire run of the series. It's fascinating. It's awesome. There's diagrams. There's lots of stuff. Links in the show notes. Please watch. It's such a great thing to view and learn about. It's great. And the book looks great too. So the video sold me on the book as if I needed to be sold on it anymore.
I've heard nothing but fantastic things about the book so far.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I mean, with like that type of, I mean, all the wonderful books are indeed wonderful. That's why they're called that. So yeah, it looks pretty cool for nerds, for detail oriented nerds like me.
Gee, I wonder who that would be.
Me, it's me, Warren. It's me.
It's actually, I got to think it's actually a pretty decent chunk of Who fandom. Is interested in stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Like TARDIS, like different police box models and how they changed and what changed and all the sort of gold. Yeah, so good book, wonderful books. TARDIS Chronicles, available everywhere right now. So check it out if you can. Here's the last bit of news that I want to talk about: the Doctor Who quiz night with Dan Starkey. Yeah, Dan Starkey, everyone, who of course played Strax, and along with various other Sontarans, and of course a couple other roles in Doctor Who, is doing a Doctor Who themed pub quiz live on YouTube Tuesday, June the 9th, and in order to support the Lilly Foundation, which is near and dear to the heart of Andrew Smith, who wrote a lot of the questions. There are 5 rounds of 8 questions each, with general Doctor Who knowledge, the classic series, the modern series, up through Doctors 9 through 12, monsters and villains, and then the 13th Doctor has her own category in there as well. So follow along. June 9th at 9 p.m. I think it is when it's happening. I can't remember what time it is, but The time is yet to be decided upon, I believe. Yeah.
Link in the show notes doesn't actually say yet.
Doesn't say. So hang on the. It's there. It's there. The links in the show notes that you can check it out yourself. It should be a lot of fun. It's Dan Starkey. He's quite superb. So it looks like 12:45 our time. So that's 6:45 p.m. On June 9th. So yeah,
7:45 p.m.
Is it really?
Yeah, 7 hours difference.
That's why I said 6:45 because 12:45 plus 6:45 is like. Oh, you're right. You're right. I got confused.
Time zone arguments are fun.
Oh, I know, baffling. I thought we were in that weird wormhole where like the UK is only like 6 hours ahead and stuff. But, yeah.
Thankfully, we have progressed past that.
Thankfully, but it's all for good cause. So there is also a link to the Just Giving page as well in the show notes. So please check that out on June the 9th. All right. Is that it? Anyone else have anything to say before we press on to the
That's pretty much it.
Moment at hand?
I'm good.
Here we go then, everyone.
Steve Thompson.
It's time to talk about Doctor Who writer, quote unquote, Steve Thompson in the miniscope.
Could be a theme park from the future. Or it might be inside a miniscope.
Oh, shut up.
A miniscope, yes, of course, why not?
Yes, it's Stephen Thompson in the miniscope.
It had to happen eventually, right?
I think possibly.
I mean, of all the dozens of miniscopes we've done, or hundreds, or I don't even know how many it's been since we started this thing.
A lot.
2009?
How many miniscopes is that? A lot.
It's 2009 is a lot. We've done a lot over the intervening 11 years here. It's crazy that we've done miniscopes for over half the length of this podcast. Well over half the length.
Well, we're not even at 14 years on the podcast.
I know.
He says not even 14 years as though it's a minor thing.
Yeah, exactly. Stephen Thompson, of course, was apparently a teacher at the same school that Stephen Moffat taught at before he began his writing career. Stephen Thompson, of course, in real life, is actually the Tyler Durden of Stephen Moffat's mind.
Please establish this. Is this your conspiracy theory, a conspiracy theory, or complete balderdash?
I genuinely don't know, but I don't know if I came up with it or I've helped further this theory that perhaps Stephen Thompson is actually just a fictitious person, a nom de plume that Stephen Moffat puts on episodes that he's written that he isn't entirely satisfied with, perhaps. This, of course, is bunk. Or is it? The fact that he basically comes out of nowhere and is placed in writing positions on both Sherlock and Doctor Who, and then kind of like fades away into relative obscurity. Apparently, he's a co-producer of a show that's being aired right now, but is he really?
That happens more than you'd think. I remember Oliver Stone had this guy who was always executive producer and all his stuff, and he was basically just a lickspittle for Oliver Stone. But he got executive producer credit because Oliver Stone said so.
There you go.
I'm sure that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, here we are. It's time to talk about his 3 Doctor Who stories, one of which he co-wrote with Steve Moffat. So just to further blur the lines, basically like, okay, well, obviously people are catching on to this, so we better co-write an episode, and so that'll keep the hounds at bay, so to speak. But the 3 stories that we'll be mulling over here are The Curse of the Black Spot, the impossibly long-named Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, and the much shorter-named Time Heist from seasons 6, 7, and 8, respectively. So, Curse of the Black Spot, a much derided episode by general Doctor Who fandom. I thought it started off as a perfectly serviceable pirate episode, which is never a bad thing before it sort of veers into something else and then becomes the Stones of Blood at the tail end. I don't know. What do you two think?
It's a Stones of Blood by way of a perfectly serviceable pirate episode at the end too. so it's like, hey, here we are, and here we are again. Okay, sure, fine, whatever. It's not. I don't know. If you compare it to Stones of Blood, immediately sets it up for failure because Stones of Blood is so good. But having said that, this is not. It's just kind of a bit of a runaround, and so is Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, frankly. And so I was just like, okay, so this is all it is, which would have been fine for an hour and a half in the classic series. So I don't know what my problem is, but
yeah. But we hold New Who to such a high account, apparently, that each episode has to be an absolute classic that we remember fondly over the years, so that we can look back and go, hey, remember that middling Doctor Who story in the middle of a Tom Baker season, but we actually think, oh, wasn't that a great story in the middle of a Tom
Or have
Baker
something
season.
to distinguish it. And Curse of the Black Spot doesn't really. I mean, the siren's kind of weird looking and kind of neat looking and kind of neat CG, I suppose.
There are issues in both. I find the issues are less prevalent in time. I quite like Time Heist, perhaps because it is totally co-written by Stephen Moffat. But there are issues in both the first two episodes that I can't tell if they are on the writing side or perhaps because they were having to compensate from the writing side that they had to sort of be fixed in the editing side, as I'm sure we'll probably get to. But let's go through these in order. Curse of the Black Spot. As I said, serviceable pirate story. Hugh Bonneville, a great performance. Looks good on the pirate ship. Amy is swinging a sword around and wearing a hat and a coat and stuff. And it starts off great. I find it's like everything's going interesting, and there's like a weird siren in the water and stuff. And then all of a sudden, there becomes this mushy middle where
a lot of back and forth. Yeah,
a lot of like literal back and forth before it finally sort of wraps up with a very confusingly written scene with the saving of Rory.
And I think it's kind of a neat idea that this is actually like a medical computer that's trying to help. That's, rather than just some evil thing.
Yeah, the general gist of the story is fine. I kind of like it, but something happens in there where I don't know if it was like a problem with the script that things had to be chopped out, because what I'm leading up to is the boatswain, boatswain, if you want to read it literally, but boatswain, who is in the room there on the boat, locked in there with the kid, Amy and Rory, suddenly disappears and is never seen again until literally the last scene, when it turns out he was actually zapped back to the alternate dimension. It's entirely lost in editing. That character disappears, and I've just remembered why did that character disappear? Was there a whole section of plot that involved him running out there that they just chopped for time and hoped that no one would notice? And I'm beginning to think that that's the case, because the placement of this episode in the series proper, after the big two-parter and before The Doctor's Wife, which is going to be a very big tentpole, being Neil Gaiman's episode of Doctor Who that year, you sort of put this episode there to sort of bury it in between the two massive tentpoles and hope no one notices it. And that's kind of, that scene with the disappearing bosun is kind of a metaphor of that.
Well, and sometimes it helps to go back randomly, as we're doing, and go and check out these episodes that are sort of placeholders in the middle out of that sequence. But it did not help in either of the two cases we're going to go to first.
Oh, I've never thought that. But apart from that, and a couple, another thing that kind of is really noticeable for me as well. But I want to hear what Chris has to think about Curse of the Black Spot first. Chris, what are your thoughts on this pirate story?
I hated it less watching it this time around.
Right.
Last 3 years, I've been chiefly watching the new stuff, so Whittaker, and then the Capaldi years Blu-ray box set. So I've been kind of overdosing on Capaldi and Whittaker, and it's kind of nice to go back to Matt Smith.
He's a good Doctor Who, isn't he?
I miss him. I do miss him. Nothing against Capaldi or Whittaker; they're both brilliant, but I miss Matt Smith. Just his playfulness. What I don't miss is you talked about the positioning of this episode and how it was kind of buried between a couple tent poles. And I think it's because it actually was the case, but what little in the story there was that fed into this Series 6A arc just felt forced. Which kind of just draws you out of the story a little bit. Like Amy wakes up and there's Madame Kavarian there, and she, then at the end of the episode, the doctor doing the scan of Amy and pregnant, not pregnant, pregnant, not pregnant thing, like,
which seems like really invasive. Frankly, I was like, that's not cool. It's a little non-consensual.
Well, I guess if nothing else, it makes you wonder what else has the doctor done to his companions as far as scans and
this guy's got cancer.
Gathering.
Great. That's why she's just brushing Graham aside, because she already knows all the details.
I already know this weeks ago. Yeah.
I don't know, Stephen, you said it was a perfectly serviceable pirate story. At the start of it, like the cold open, you got this lead in of the guy being told, "Oh, you're gonna die. You're dead. You're so gone because you're injured," and you see this tiny little nick on his finger, and it's like, holy crap, that's actually a heck of a good setup.
Yeah,
because you wonder why. Okay. Yeah, it's pirate times and infection and this and that, and maybe, people might die from something as small as that, but that's not going to be the norm, I would hope.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
But it's a great lead into the story. It's a good WTF moment, and I like that. And then it kind of goes downhill from there.
Yeah, both right. Both this and Journey to the Center of TARDIS both have good premises that don't deliver.
Yeah.
I mean, the one note I put down was basically it's an awful lot of box ticking. For the pirate stuff, they threw everything in there. You got the laughing pirates, the plank swinging on a rope, sword fights,
which
Amy
you
in the
could do
pirate
properly
costume.
If you're taking a piss or whatever.
Well,
it doesn't.
This is you open up a thing here. This is kind of like a similar problem I have with Robot of Sherwood, is that we're not necessarily setting a Doctor Who story in the time period here. We are ticking off the tropes basically of what we all think we know about such things, and that happens
again in Time Heist, as we'll get to, I'm sure. But it's like, and then I don't know. Most of my notes are kind of just nitpicking, maybe, but. As far as all the box ticking goes, one thing that I did think was good was the story kind of goes beyond just the pirate and this sea lore stuff. And it's not just because you think of sirens, you think of Greek mythology or things like that, the Odyssey, etc. Sirens have this fixed role in literature, and at least this kind of takes that and spins it and elevates it and turns it, hype. The phrasing I used was a hyperactive, if stupid, EMH.
Yeah.
If stupid, very nice.
Well, because it is. It knows how to keep the people alive. It knows that they're injured, but it doesn't know how to fix them.
It's not the first time that there's been a hyperactive EMH or sort of like automated system. Like I'm thinking of Girl in the Fireplace, basically harvesting the crew to keep the ship alive. Because doing what it needs to do.
In this respect, Star Trek is leagues ahead.
Yeah.
Well, Star Trek had a little more breadth. They had 7 years on Voyager,
True.
Plus all the other stuff that
and Robert Picardo was much more interesting.
Yeah. What I mean, it starts off, okay, interesting. There's a thing here. Okay, we're at a bit of a nice little serviceable pirate romp and stuff. But where it really falls down is once everyone sort of starts getting locked away and stuff. And the part that bugs me, and certainly did this time around here, is there's two basic scenes going on at some point in about 15 minutes into the episode where Amy and Rory and the rest of the people are locked in the cabin so that they don't go into the water and get attacked. And the Doctor and Captain Avery are heading off to the TARDIS, and they go into the TARDIS and stuff. And when you're putting together a show, usually like a scene happens and it builds up to something, then you cut to the next scene where something else happens, and like there's a momentum going on. And in those scenes, they basically cut back and forth between the same, like one longer scene where it's not building to anything. And that scene in the TARDIS like is spread out over 3 different scenes essentially, where like he's saying, oh, what's that there? And like they sort of have a look and then it cuts to something else. And nothing is actually happening in those scenes. They're just editing it to sort of try and create a bit of momentum, but really nothing is actually happening in anything. Nothing happens for like 5 minutes. Oh, really? Okay, I'd like to hear this.
As much as anything, that scene, or the TARDIS stuff, other than, because there was the whole feud is a strong word, but conflict about who's in charge, and they're both captains of their own ship, and who takes rank and whatever. But beyond, and they kind of sort that out a little bit there, but beyond that, it also, and this is one of the things that I think bugged us at the time back in 2011, still does now, is, Avery takes a look at the console. He's like, oh, that does that, that does that, that does that. It's setting up Avery gleaning the knowledge or ability to pilot the ship at the end.
I think you could have had that at the end there and not even involve the TARDIS at all. To me, what it feels like is they had the scenes with the bosun who disappears, cut those out. This could be completely guessing on my part. And then, great, we have like 3 more minutes to fill. How do we do it? Let's write a scene in the TARDIS, basically the only standing set, because that's all it is. It just whole scene just feels like padding, because they basically they go in the TARDIS. They go in the TARDIS and they just say, "Oh, that's how this works." Blah blah blah. Okay, now let's try this, and then the TARDIS disappears. Really, they could have just had, "Oh, the TARDIS disappears," and eliminated that scene.
No. And it is fun to see the captain go, "Oh, I can use this. It's a ship."
It is, but it's padding.
That's fine.
It's total padding.
It's 100% padding, but it's also laying that groundwork. And if you don't have that foundation, then the payoff at the end, silly as it is even more so.
That's true. It's also one of the more enjoyable things in the whole episode, even if it is padding.
I think you could have had the Doctor basically explain how the hyperspace ship works in similar fashion.
I think you need the foundation earlier on in the episode, and
I don't know
when it's delivered is as timely as it.
I think you're both right, because the Doctor who has often had him just explain stuff away and walk off, especially Matt Smith's Doctor. But it doesn't hurt to do it the way Chris is describing, which is how they did it. It's not the end of the world. They did it that way.
I think it stalls the momentum greatly in that, but there is no momentum to stall. That is the problem, I suppose, and that is the main problem with the episode, is that there's a lot of points in the episode where there is no momentum, and
there's also the potential for like you're talking about, like cutting back between the ship and the boat and the TARDIS and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't privy to the script writing process to know if that's actually how it was written, or like the bosun, if it was just edited that way. Like they could have changed it up in post.
It feels like an editing process, probably to work around the fact that nothing was happening as the famous phrase, it's written for the last time in the edit suite. And that's kind of, it feels like that's what's happening, because the writing doesn't actually crescendo to anything in each of those individual scenes. It just feels like they're just interrupted. That's all.
Here's something else.
By the same token, also, it could just be, the editing could have been done that way just so they don't have the same location for such a long time.
Like I said, that's basically what it's trying to do is save the script by editing around it to create some momentum when there is none, which is, I think, the main problem with it. Anyway, Warren, you were trying to say.
Oh, I was just going to say, maybe this is just a side effect of my disdain for musicals, but I found that anytime a story hinges on music in any way, other than Christmas Carol, it doesn't work. Like the song comes up and it just starts irritating you, right? Same with Rings of Akhaten. The song comes up and you're like, oh God, what is this? What is this for? You know what I mean? And this just kind of
because I don't know why. Siren.
I mean, it's just me.
Because I know
why it's
That's
there.
why it's there.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't, for whatever reason, maybe it's just my take on it, but whatever, it takes me out of it. Just like musicals do. I don't
with all the box ticking that happens to get all those pirate tropes in the story, you gotta have the siren.
Oh no, I know we do. I know it just doesn't work for me.
They spin it later in the episode to say, oh, it's actually anesthetic to keep the and like, okay, fine.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. The song itself, the singing actually reminded me of the music score from the Space Pirates, so I was okay with that.
I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying it. Whatever part of my brain it triggers. Yeah,
that's fair.
The other thing that really bothers me about the Curse of the Black Spot is the ending. Fine, hyperspace ship, that's kind of all that, but and this has been talked about by many people over the past 9 years. But the fact that they have to save Rory's life by taking him off basically the life support and bringing him into the TARDIS. But like the Doctor stands by and does nothing. He has all sorts of technology that can help save, like maybe a defib unit, I don't know, in the TARDIS, but he just stands by and watches him because it's important for Amy to show her devotion to Rory that she alone has to save his life, and like barely does it, and that's always bothered me.
She also does the whole hand through the circle thing to take full responsibility for him.
Yeah, and apparently for everyone else,
that was a continuation of that.
Because she disappears for everyone. So I guess she's responsible for everyone in that whole place now. It's
just Rory.
The fact that the medical unit disappears, like totally, like everyone is now on their own at that point because
they're okay because they just had a nick on their hand or whatever.
They just had but Rory's drowning, right? Gotcha.
Rory was drowning in the water, lungs full of water. He's on the verge of death.
Yeah,
if you're infected on a boat, you're screwed.
His situation was significantly worse than anybody else's.
That's true, but still, the fact that Amy had to save him with the Doctor doing nothing just felt very bad.
So I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with as part of that scene is Rory not coughing up water. Like, how hard is it to have him just spit out a little bit of water?
It's probably gross. There's certain things that Doctor Who doesn't cross. Like
water.
Massive.
It's not like he's peeing his pants.
Oh, well, maybe he is too.
I don't know how we got here, but I'd like to go away from it.
Yeah. Away from Curse of the Black Spot, perhaps.
I've got some other stuff I want to throw out there about it.
Okay, we're doing this one in a short recording window, folks, for these, but such is the attention that Steve Thompson gets. But what do you got in the way of notes there, Chris? Blow through them.
Not much. I'll split a few things. Okay. There's the one bit where they're worried about the siren coming out of shiny surfaces, so they start throwing all the gold overboard and breaking the windows and things like that. Yet before that, they show the siren. There's that barrel of water inside the gunpowder room. So the siren can get in through water or any shiny surface, but in the gunpowder room, there's the barrel of water. The siren tries to come up through there. They put the lid back on, and that's it. She's like, her powers are taken away or whatever.
Yeah.
So why do you have to throw all this gold away? Can't you just put it in a sack?
Put it in a bag.
Put it in a chest. Put it in a barrel. Hide it. Cover it. Something silly. And more to that point, there's the scene when Toby is trying to hang on to that crown. He drops the crown, and the siren comes out of the crown. Meanwhile, it's raining cats and dogs. There's water everywhere. The siren has to come out of the crown. Why can't it come out of any of the water that's everywhere on the deck? Like,
maybe it's not reflective enough on the deck. I don't know.
It's just stupid.
I like your one review. Yeah, stupid.
Yeah. And then also when you see all the other crewmates and whatever in the hospital ward, they're all sedated, they're on a bed, whatever. Amy, the Doctor, and Avery purposefully cut themselves so they can get transported to the other ship, but they're just left alone. Like, why aren't they sedated?
They should be in that thing. Yeah,
they should be on the thing. And then you talk about the middle part of the story dragging and whatnot. The whole addition of Toby and the father-son relationship, gag me. Such it's frickin' drain on the story.
It is a drain. I agree.
Mm. That was all I had.
Well,
like I said, I hated it less this time around, but there are lots of problems with the story.
There are a lot. There are a lot of problems. Probably fewer problems than with Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, though, I think. Which
I thought I watched Journey. So I watched Time Heist and then Black Spot and then Journey. Just I don't know why I just did.
Right.
When I sat down and watched Journey, like I really didn't like it the first time around. It's also the first season 7B story I watched in quite some time, and I had forgotten about the revamped 7B titles, and man, they're awesome. Love those titles.
I totally forgot about them too.
But I sat there watching Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, and I don't know if it was just if it was just distance or what, but I found so many fewer problems this time around.
Really?
I sat down. I sat down. I found I could just enjoy the ride, and it was okay. Other than one big glaring thing, which we'll talk about in time, I'm sure.
I cut it a lot of slack back in the day because it was going through the TARDIS for the first time, and I was wrong.
Second time.
It is not good.
Yeah.
It is dull and it goes on forever. And I think we're going to talk about the same thing here, Chris. It hinges on something really stupid. And just, yeah. And there's a whole bunch of Stephen Moffat arc stuff in the end that kind of sort of works, but that's because of Stephen Moffat stuff at the end.
Right.
So, yeah.
Which you moved there from, I think it was going to be at the end of something else. But, because that was going to lead into Nightmare in Silver, but then they moved things around a little bit. Kyle Anderson and I did an episode on this, of course, with Memory Cheats, and I had the worst time trying to remember anything from that story at the time. The memory really did cheat because it cheated me. I didn't remember anything about it, and I was watching it now, going, right there, this bit, and it just the problem with setting an episode within the TARDIS is that people have been imagining and dreaming and writing fanfic and writing comic strips about inside the TARDIS for decades, basically trying to course correct Invasion of Time and the disused hospital. And so you are now like having to deal with everyone's expectations and dreams of what it looks like inside the TARDIS.
But that's never, ever going to deliver.
Never.
Ever.
It
never. It simply can't.
And so the fact that
I love them anyway, usually.
We actually don't see much of. We see the library for a weird brief period. We see like Clara looks at the book and says, "Oh, that's who," and then what could that mean?
Back in his era, RTD talked about how so he invented the Time War as a catalyst for this and that as part of the series,
right?
But how he felt he could never do the Time War because the expectation would always be so high that nothing could actually deliver on that until Moffat does Day of the Doctor, which, it kind of does deliver.
Yeah, because it's the very end. That's the thing. He doesn't do the whole Time War.
The Time War book, for example, this is pre-Day of the Doctor. It's Warren talked about, just going back, as good as randomly and watching stuff here and there for Black Spot. This when Clara finds the book in the library about the history of the Time War and the Doctor's name and stuff like that, you got to take a pause and you got to remember, okay, this is pre Name of the Doctor, this is pre Day of the Doctor, this is pre. There's a lot of stuff that we have in our minds that happened, but it hadn't happened yet.
Well, I was building up to it though. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's part of the folklore.
Yeah. That wasn't my point, but what. I was watching. I mean, Clara does nothing. She runs around basically, and is mildly threatened. Like there's no. Again, it kind of in keeping with Curse of the Black Spot. There are two basically storylines going on at once in the middle of the episode, and neither has real momentum with anything at all. Clara's just sort of going around looking at a book. There's a jar. There's these weird zombies coming after, because apparently at the end of the course of the episode we find out that those weird burned zombies are them in a future timeline and stuff. And the first instinct that all zombies do, of course, is we want to eat the living, because naturally, why wouldn't they do that? If you are burned to a crisp by the Eye of Harmony, you will want to go and attack others. That is what your basic gist is. And so it's a runaround that just doesn't go anywhere. It's just a frustrating thing, and like there's a false urgency when the Doctor sort of says, "Oh, I've set the self-destruct for an hour. Oh, you don't like that? It's half an hour now. Let's go and find Clara and stuff."
Well, the ticking clock theme is huge. Like that's so widely done.
But it doesn't lead anywhere, because at the end he says, "Oh, I actually turned it off. I had never even set the self-destruct." And then there's a weird thing about
they just wipe it out.
And then try to create some drama between the three salvage brothers, and one of them is an android, but it's not. Like that really.
That's the biggest problem I have with this. Yeah. It's just such a dumb and cruel thing to do. It just doesn't make any sense.
And at the end, when that timeline is erased because none of it actually happened, it's like they say, the brother never finds out that he just said that the other brother says, oh, I guess I'm just a little nicer now for some reason. But we don't actually see if they ever tell him that he's not an android.
Yeah.
Also, and this is just me being an elderly fan,
Boy.
but I hate that the iHarmony is into TARDIS. Like, it bugged me in the TV movie, and it bugs me here, and maybe it's my own fault. But
that's one of the things I was going to bring up. Like, is it in the TARDIS, or is it in every TARDIS?
I don't know. Who cares? I'm angry, but not angry enough to figure it out.
The TV movie implies that it's in just that TARDIS, just the Doctor's TARDIS.
Yeah,
but I think in this instance, it's open to interpretation that maybe it's in every TARDIS. Mm-hmm. We don't know because we've never really seen it in any other TARDIS. Doesn't mean it's not there.
No. Oh, I watching this again, just thinking this is I again like all the sort of rough episodes in Series 7B. I'm thinking like what draft was Stephen Wright Day of the Doctor was Stephen Moffat writing right now and focusing all of his attention on, and I'm appreciative of that. I'm so happy that we got Day of the Doctor. I will sacrifice a few dodgy episodes in the spring of 2013 if it means that we get an amazing celebration of the 50th anniversary. And this was that.
Which we did.
This was that. Yeah,
as was Akaton for you. Yeah.
Yepers.
And as was Crimson Horror for me.
Yeah, you didn't like that one that much, yeah.
It was fun with that, but Akaton is pretty much a garbage dump. I agree.
As far as Journey to the Center of TARDIS goes, I thought it was okay. I thought the ticking clock was fine. You got to get the action started somehow. Clara running around isn't Clara just running around. You said she sees the swimming pool. She's in the library. There's skylights in the library. She compliments its makes fun of its grandiosity.
Yeah, it feels like we're being pandered to without being pandered to at all. That's the weird thing about it.
Yeah,
How
dare they thank you more?
She's still doing and discovering a little bit, and then the whole not unlike Black Spot, where you've got the hyperspace ship, you've got the different echoes things, like when Clara's in the console room and so is the Doctor, and he hears her, and even though she's sort of not there, she is, and pulls her out of it and gets them together and whatnot. I thought that was okay. The brothers were okay as far as there's the go-getter one who wants just to steal everything, and they stay true to their characters, I thought. Other than, of course, and the comparison I drew to the whole Android not Android thing was Guy Crayford from Android Invasion.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
No, because Guy Crayford should have known his eye was there, just like this guy should have known. He's not Android.
I've got an eye.
I just tried to forget
believe
the Android Invasion.
Yeah.
I did like some of the development stuff that led into Time War, Day of the Doctor, the end of Series 7.
Yeah.
I was surprised it was in Series 7, to be honest. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's there. Never mind.
Yeah.
But as far as like the TARDIS interior itself is concerned, you're never gonna like the reconfiguration stuff. It's like vines and light bulbs and
yet every time we see the original control room, it's just sort of shoehorned into this. We're like, oh yeah,
but we don't even see that. We don't even see that really.
I would have loved to have seen another console room.
Just around
whether it was tenants like we saw.
You know which one I'm going to say. Something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Whether it was tenants like we saw in Doctor's Wife or whatever, I would have something else should have been in there.
Yeah.
But I hated it a lot less. I thought it was okay enough. It was a very.
I want that on the poster. I hated it a lot less.
It was a very straightforward story. It kind of did what it's supposed to do. It did what it said it was going to do on the tin, and it's there. It's not going to be a favorite by any means, but
no, it filled 45 minutes and only just.
I could watch it again, and I didn't think that was a.
I don't know if I could.
I thought that was less possible than it is.
I don't think I would.
I don't know. I remember I actually paused it like, so how much? Oh my God, we're less than halfway through this thing? Really? It just felt. Anyway, in the interest of time, let's move on to Time Heist.
Yes.
The third and final outing from Steve Thompson. Of course, he covered it with Stephen Moffat. Peter Capaldi, Jenna Coleman in an awesome suit, hold up a bank, which they have no idea why they're doing it, and they basically have to figure out backwards why they're heisting.
Which is the best part of the whole thing, frankly.
It is. I quite enjoy Time Heist. I enjoyed it at the time.
I don't.
Whereas Chris hates it. I thought it was clever. I am crediting all the clever bits to the Stephen Moffat half
As
of
am I,
this
and I'm
episode.
definitely crediting the saucy, bespeckled dominatrix tag to him because
that
good
is
Lord, that's
100%.
very much on
Hawes
form for Stephen
delivers.
Moffat.
So well.
Yeah. The Mrs. Insert name here with glasses and dominatrix, as you say, is basically Stephen Moffat's older lady with red hair that John Nathan Turner tried to cram into literally every episode.
Now, I'm not complaining. I just want to make that clear. I am not in any way complaining. I am just recognizing that this is happening.
I suppose it's funny. Stephen Moffat, who is not necessarily anti-gay, but it is so pro-hetero. It is quite something.
Yeah, I believe, and this only makes sense if you live in BC. It's like going to Penticton during the summer. It's like a straight pride parade by people just being themselves.
Yeah, it's funny watching
It embarrasses you to be heterosexual.
Yeah, in retroactive. Anyway, I enjoyed Time Heist. Chris didn't like it. Warren, what's your thought?
I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I did too.
I think that might be down to the cleverness of the memory stuff and the fact that it's a heist, which makes it fun to begin with, and just I like the companions who are with them, like the temporary one episode only companions.
Yeah, the little team there, little heist. I like how they're at the end. They're like having takeaway noodles and telling stories in the TARDIS. It's just like it's I don't know. It's a lot of fun. It's a heist.
For a cranky doctor, Capaldi seems to be having a whale of a time.
Yeah, he does a bit.
Capaldi gets all the good lines for sure. Like shut-it up. Like that is so Moffat. And then shut up. Right afterward.
That is good. Yes.
So this to me is a lot like Curse of the Black Spot. It's got an established premise or element. There's a ton of box ticking on this one.
Oh yeah, but it's fun box ticking.
Well, I mean, heist stuff is supposed to be fun, and it kind of is. I mean, everyone's got their own reasons to be there. The memory wipe is not a new thing. I did not like that they've taken ideas from other Doctor Who stuff and put it right back in here, like
well, that's the history of Doctor Who, frankly, but.
Kind of, but like in Bad Wolf, when people get zapped by the beam. Oh, it's actually a teleporter. Same thing here. Oh, you get quote unquote killed by this thing in the vial. No, it's just a teleporter, and it kind of just takes a lot of oomph out of it.
Yeah, teleportation units have that look like death. it's a long running trope in Doctor Who, I think.
And one of the best things about it is I mean, it's like I say, it's a heist thing. It's supposed to be fun. There's always stuff on screen that you see, and Moffat does this really well in general. But there's stuff you see on screen, but you don't think about it until there's an explanation given later. Then you're like, oh man, how did I not put to like the fact there are 4 people on the team, but 6 of the teleporters. Like right. you clearly see there are 6 in the case, but you don't really think, why are there 6 when there's only 4 of them?
It's kind of like why are there only 4 manuals and 4 stuff in like the Last Christmas, for instance? When like you don't think about it until right, there's 4 people in there. Why? There's no crew of 8, but yeah, it's one of those things that he hides in plain sight.
Yeah, and he's done that a lot. He did that a lot through his tenure, and I know I kept falling for it.
Me too. Yeah. So, but you don't like this one.
It's not memorable. It's just really not memorable. It's just it exists. It's there. It does what it's supposed to do. It's kind of like Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. It's not going to stand out as a favorite. I mean, if
the writing anything, is that? Sorry.
If anything, Capaldi is the best part about it.
I think it looks great, which has nothing to do with the writing. I know.
No, Douglas McKinnon does a great job at directing this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was clever. It's time. They take a heist story. They take a character who would never rob a bank on his own, and make him rob a bank, but to do it like for good reasons, essentially, and it's done through time. I thought like this is the perfect way that Doctor Who could do a heist, essentially.
And for a show that too often doesn't play with time enough, this does.
Yeah,
and that's good.
Yeah, like they appear at the exact moment when the power outage happens because they know the person whoever created this heist knows exactly. And of course, it's the Doctor who sort of helps out. So it's
but that's another part of the heist trope is you got to have this big massive thing happen. And if it doesn't happen, then the heist doesn't happen. The heist doesn't happen. So like in Die Hard,
Stephen Thompson Moffat.
Yeah.
Examples of that I put in Die Hard are like the EMP in Ocean's 11 or the FBI shutting off the power in Die Hard. Mm-hmm. Like if those don't happen, the story doesn't happen. So you got
the FBI shut off the power in Time Heist. That would have been something.
Yeah, during a Lennox Lewis match in Time Heist as well. A mixed bag, perhaps at best, when it comes to Stephen Thompson stuff.
Yeah. I'm definitely of the I hated it less this time around for all.
Yeah, I think I'm in that same camp.
Possibly so. I think Journey
except
dipped.
Journey kind of ticked up a bit.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed Time Heist, and I guess I knew it was coming with Curse of the Black Spot. But
yeah, wow, what an endorsement! I guess we know where this one's going.
Yeah, so let's ask the question: do we don't see him back? No, but that's okay because Stephen Moffat isn't on the
Stephen. Yeah, exactly.
He's not on the show anymore, so naturally, why would he bring his alter ego to write for the show? It's not possible.
Or even his friend. So it's just not going to happen.
No.
He'll be on Dracula Part 2.
Yeah, exactly. He'll write the second series. Really? Stephen Thompson gets another writing credit. That's interesting. Very interesting indeed.
I made up Dracula Part 2. I don't think that's
or maybe you didn't. Maybe it's happening and Stephen Thompson is writing it right now and claiming half the paycheck that Stephen Moffat did. Who knows?
Showrunner Stephen Thompson.
I think Stephen Thompson's doing the reboot of Press Gang.
That's it. It's
or
crap.
The reboot of Reboot.
Yeah, and it's crap. Stephen Moffat was actually unhappy with it, thus he's decided to Stephen Thompson. That's exactly how it works. Anyway, your thoughts on the conspiracy theory on a postcard, please. Mail them to us. We don't have a mailing address.
Postcard.
Yes. Just time enough in this episode to draw our next victim. So in the miniscope, Chris, do you have the randomizer open right now?
Ready to fire.
Fantastic. Begin the spinning of it now. As the ever dwindling miniscope goes on, and we're running out of.
I look forward to whenever we get Series 13, so we maybe have more names we can add to the.
That's true.
Add to the miniscope because we've got 3 added from Series 11, 12 kind of time frame.
Well, maybe we'll get one of them. Who knows? Here we go. Stop.
Well, this might be a little bit awkward. Douglas McKinnon.
Hey, how about that?
So we just watched Time Heist.
Yep.
Obviously for a different perspective. We talked about Douglas McKinnon doing some good work on there. What else do I got? Listen.
Listen and the Sontaran 2-parter and the Husbands of River Song. That is an epic. That might be another 2-part miniscope.
I've watched almost all this recently. Less work.
Yeah.
I went through the Tennant Blu-ray set not that long ago, and I maybe I want to watch the Sontaran one again. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Sontarans one in quite a while. So, all right, well, look at that.
But the Capaldi stuff, plowed through it last week. So we're good.
Douglas McKinnon has been on this podcast a couple times, once in an interview at Gallifrey One, once in a commentary for the Husbands of River Song itself. So,
that's right.
Yeah, I quite enjoy his work on the show. So we'll I'll tell you what, we'll certainly enjoy it more than we enjoyed Stephen Thompson's work on the show. All right, that's it for this episode then, folks. Until the next time, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreeskaro.com. Follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro. Subscribe to us on iTunes and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.